Yes.
All right, we'll call this meeting to order. The Finance Committee, June 13th, 2023. The record reflect Alder Galvin, Alder Burnett, Alder Johnson are present. Alder Hutchinson is present virtually. Entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved. Second?
A motion by Burnett, a second by Galvin. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Item D, approval of minutes. Approval of the Finance Committee minutes from the May 23rd, 2023 meeting.
Move to approve. Second?
A motion by Burnett, a second by Galvin. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Item E, regular business, number 1. Consideration with possible action on the pre-sale reports prepared by Ayler's Public Finance Advisors for the 2023 borrowing approved at the Common Council meeting on May 16th, 2003. Are there any questions? If not, we'll entertain a motion.
Move to approve.
Second?
We have a motion by Hutchinson, a second by Galvin. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Item 2, consideration with possible action for the initial resolution authorizing the issuance of not to exceed $10,965,000 general obligation bonds for street improvements. Any discussion?
I have none.
Alder Burnett?
Yeah, Director Ellenbecker, now there are several coming. We could just kind of, in a blanket way, discuss this. These are all customary. This is year after year. Of course, the numbers change, but there's nothing out of the ordinary.
There is nothing out of the ordinary. We also have Todd Taves from Ellers on the line. If you have any questions, he helped put the documents that you just approved, the pre-sale reports together. These are just custom and standard. Last time we approved the dollar amount, and now we've gone through and we have to put them through by the different types of issuance, not to exceed the type of general obligation bonds. The street improvements or sewer improvements, and then notes are kept separate. The only thing I would say is if you, by the time you get down to number 7 and 8, they're called, 8 and 9, they're called parameter resolutions, and that gives our financial advisors a little more leniency to be able to sell the bonds on a day that maybe the interest rate is a little lower and a little more, it's better for us. In the past, sometimes we would have it just the day of council at 10 a.m., so this gives them a little more flexibility. But I will see if Todd from Ellers has any other comments he'd like to add to these items on our agenda.
I know that summarized it nice, Diana. And one other thing I would say is the reason you have so many resolutions, the state statute requires that for GO bonds, you adopt a resolution for every single purpose. Whereas the notes, there's a single resolution for everything to be funded by the notes.
Yeah, and I kind of read through them too, and I think the biggest concern we've had in the past is making sure that the term of the note of the bond is equivalent to the lifespan of the asset for which we were bonding, and all of that is in alignment. Diana and I had an email exchange today. So 3 years on squad cars, 8 years on I think the refuse truck, 10 years on some improvements, 20 years on infrastructure. So everything looked good to me.
Heading in the right direction on
Yeah.
that. So I guess the question was really not just for the sake of the committee and the public, but for newer council members. This is their second time around, so assuming they all watch this meeting, the committee meeting, hopefully this is a good explanation for them. So no other questions.
All right, I would entertain a motion to suspend the rules to take up items 2 through 9 with one vote.
Second?
We'll call it a motion. Galvin, is there a second? Second by Burnett. Any discussion? Seeing none, those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries. Motion for a motion. Motion to approve by Alder Burnett.
Second?
Second by Alder Galvin. Any discussion on bonding? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item number 10, consideration with possible action regarding the award of debt collection service to Finance Systems of Green Bay for a 3-year contract.
Motion to approve?
We have a motion by Galvin, a second by Burnett. Any discussion?
Nope.
Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, motion carries. Item 11, consideration with possible action on a request to purchase 27 bicycles from Broken Spoke Bike Studio for $33,480 to be paid with Safer Communities grant money for the mobile response team. Chief Davis.
Good afternoon, Alders. So, as you said, this is a request for 27 bicycles. A price of $33,000 actually for 27 mountain bikes is pretty good. And that's the reason for this sole source request. And the plan for this is we need to dramatically improve our ability to deploy officers on bicycles, and primarily for public order policing uses. This being an NFL city, we have a number of large events. We have the NFL draft coming up. We've been asked to provide support in Milwaukee for some of the RNC events. We anticipate the potential, at least, for some large events and dignitary visits during the 2024 presidential election cycle. And so we currently do not have any specialized public order policing resources in the Green Bay Police Department. And we really should, for an agency our size, with the kind of events that we're likely to see here. Bikes have been shown to be very effective in a lot of public order situations. In a large crowd event, bikes can be deployed much more quickly than people on foot, and in some cases, it's almost impossible to bring a motor vehicle into a large crowd. For mobile events like marches or parades, they can be used to move up ahead, leapfrog a crowd, and block intersections. I have obviously from my previous life have a lot of experience in public order policing and have always been a big believer in bikes. The public tends to like them. It's a little bit lower key approach for police officers, makes them more approachable, helps keep the tension down at things like protest events. And then finally, this will dramatically improve our ability to deploy officers on bike patrol in places like downtown or public spaces, as we've done in the last 2 summers.
Chief, you and I spoke earlier this week, and I had inquired, this body had authorized the bonding for 12 e-bikes for the fire department, you may recall. And so I inquired with the chief why we're pursuing bicycles as opposed to e-bikes. Could you just speak to that a little bit?
Sure, and e-bikes are probably more appropriate for things like bike patrol, like our community policing unit does. There are some completely separate efforts underway to procure some e-bikes for CPs. But for public order policing uses, e-bikes are too heavy, and you really want something that's a lot lighter, that's easier to get in and out of crowds, and there are techniques that you can use if for some reason, say you need to block an area and try and get a crowd that's on the move to go a direction that you want it to go. You can put up, it's basically like a bike fence with mountain bikes very quickly. The heavier those are, though, the harder that is to do. So unfortunately for the officers on these, they're going to have to be under 100% of their own power. But they're also, you get a lot more of them for less. E-bikes are much more expensive.
Chief, how did you decide on 27?
So standard public order policing team comes in squads typically of 11 officers and a sergeant. This would give us 2, so that's 24 people, and you have 3 spares.
Okay. As far as officers being deployed on bicycles, is that something that you do to a great degree now? Are there any bikes, even bikes that are in disrepair? I mean, is that something that you mobilize now?
We don't have that many of them. We do, our community policing unit does occasionally deploy on bikes, and then we've been using them the last 2 summers now on directed patrols in downtown and like public spaces like parks, the river bike trail, but not on the scale that we're...
It's a lead-in question. I was getting to this. Is there any union contract issues with, bicycles? Is that something that came up in this latest round of negotiation?
There isn't with bicycles themselves. There is with a specialty unit like a mobile response team, and we've been in discussions with the union about how that will fit into the labor agreement that we have, and I think we've got that.
So there's real, as far as you're concerned, no pushback. Any officers will like this. I'm sure it's something that many will volunteer to do.
I would think so. I mean, I have not heard any negative feedback from among the officers, but, you know, there may be some, but I haven't heard it.
Final thing, obviously, in your memo to us, you kind of mentioned the NFL draft, and from a public perspective, I guess some people may see this and go, well, City of Green Bay's paying $30-some thousand because of the NFL draft. You're going to use these bikes regardless of the NFL draft. It's something that you're needing for other large-scale events in the city, is that right?
Yes, we have been working for several months now on, before we even knew that the NFL draft was coming, on a plan to establish a specialized public order policing resource, a big part of which is this bike patrol option. The NFL draft is an example of one of the places where we would want to use this, but I think we will probably use it in a couple other events before that.
So you were pursuing this prior to the NFL draft
Yes.
announced? Okay, that's all. Thank you.
Alder Galvin?
We're still missing one of our bikes, stolen at a Packer game. Was any thought put into putting trackers on these bikes? You get into a melee, there's a good chance one could go missing, and at over $1,000 a pop. Was there any thought of that?
I will be honest with you, I have not thought of that until just this moment, but that's not a bad idea. I mean, we could probably put air tags on them for fairly cheap.
The other thing I was thinking too is an officer needs help, and he's been pursuing someone you don't necessarily know where he's at. Being able to track that bike would be a benefit for the officer.
Our body cameras are geolocatable right now, so yeah, that would cover us there.
And I'm sure you're already looking at this, training.
Yes.
When, how much, how long?
The tentative plan right now is we're working with the Milwaukee Police Department to loan us an instructor to come up and teach our folks, and we want to try to have that done before the weather gets bad this fall.
Okay. I'm totally in favor of this. I mean, I've seen what they've been able to do in the past, and I've seen what they've done recently across the nation. This is something I think the city will make good use of.
Okay. Yeah, and I think, just to add to that, I think this is a good product. It's, Chief and I talked about it. I like that it makes our police department more approachable. Even just the uniforms are different. I think this to me makes a lot more sense than maybe the cavalry ever did. I don't know what the exact appropriate term for that is, but
Oh, the horse
the
patrol.
horse patrol, mounted patrol. Yeah, we'll call it the cavalry. It's, no, but I do like this for a lot of reasons, just the way it connects our officers to our community. The only concern that I had was the specialty union discussions. So do you have any concerns? I mean, does that require a modification to the agreement?
We're in the process right now of working out an MOU with the union.
Okay.
The current bargaining agreement, one of the things that we did in this latest agreement was we pretty much standardized selection processes for all of the specialty units in the department, where the selection process, the default selection process is the same for all of them, and it would be no different for this one. And then the ones that have a physical test that we need to do that is tied to some of the job duties, like the SWAT team, that's an add-on. We've already been in very productive discussions with the association on this, and at least at this point, I don't anticipate labor issues. You know, the contract provisions for things like compensation for training or for call-outs or special events or those kind of things are already in place. So really, it's another opportunity for, in this case, about 24 of the association's members to learn new skills and do something different.
Is there any concern on your part? You know, part of me says maybe we should make this contingent on, you know, the successful execution of an MOU. Would you have any problems with that? Or are you looking to order these prior?
Well, the problem would be the timeline. Because of supply chains, this is an opportunity that we have to get these at a pretty good price. This is something we would find a use for, whether we complete an MOU with the union on the mobile response team or not. I see the failure of an MOU with the union right now is a fairly low risk, just based on the discussions we've had and the progress we've made. I mean, we've already submitted a draft, it's gone back and forth. We've changed some things that they pointed out that in our draft we actually had a little different than that sort of default process that we have. So, I mean, just based on how productive the conversations have been, I think it's pretty low risk that we won't get there with the union.
Okay, good. Any other questions?
Move the approval.
No, my questions have all been answered.
Okay, we have a motion by Brunette,
Second.
second by Galvin. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, motion carries. Congrats, chief.
Stay up.
And we had a funding source, by the way, that wasn't even brought up, that
We do, yes. Say it.
that it wasn't a levy-supported funding source. So I
Right,
think
right.
it's just important to acknowledge.
Yeah, it's covered out of the state Safer Communities grant.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, item 12, consideration with possible action on amendment to ARPA funding allocation for police recruiting and retention. Chief.
So, a while back, we were given authorization by council for contingency funding for overhire for sworn people. And this was always the risk in this, that we would get halfway through the year and not need any of it. I still anticipate the potential that we may need some money to overhire. Right now, we are down to 2 sworn vacancies, and we're doing another testing process in July. So I would appreciate maintaining the flexibility to overhire still this year. But I don't think that we're going to get anywhere near $267,000 at this point, because we estimated that number very conservatively so that we could cover, what the maximum we thought we would need, and we're not going to have that scenario. In the meantime, we have a few newer expenses that we're trying to find a way to cover related to recruiting and retention. The first of these is in the 2023 Police Association contract. We agreed to use an outside consultant and do an assessment center for sergeants' promotions. And so there's always a cost associated with getting an outside consultant. I don't have a lot of confidence in an estimate yet as to what that cost will be. Typically, in an agency this size, my kind of back of the napkin estimate would be somewhere between $10,000 and $20,000 to have that done. I think $20,000 is probably on the high side. So this would, that's an unfunded need in our current budget that is a result of the labor agreement. On balance, I think that's a good policy. I think that provides us with, having an outside eyes on our promotional process for sergeant will promote confidence among the union membership in the fairness of the process and its objectivity. I've done processes this way before with outside groups. There are lots of them around the country. They're very good at it. And we don't normally run these processes ourselves, and so I do see a need for that outside expertise. The second thing that we run into is our costs related to recruiting and background investigations. We've been doing a lot of hiring, and I think this is a good problem to have, but we had an $88,000 ARPA funding package that was authorized, I believe it was last year, for recruiting that we have used up. We use that on things like sending our recruiters to recruiting events around the region, travel to do background investigations, which has, without going into too much detail, we have had cases where I've been really glad that we sent someone physically to go visit, in this case out of state, because sometimes you find out things in backgrounds that you wouldn't otherwise and you would wish you knew later. So it is important, I think, for us to travel to these places out of state when we hire recruits from outside the area to do background investigations, and then our psychological evaluations, we do a psychological evaluation on every person who's given a conditional job offer, and those add up when you hire as many people as we have. So we would like the flexibility to cover those costs going forward for the rest of this year out of that contingency fund. And then finally, we're looking for money to cover the cost of training to allow our own personnel to evaluate the EQI test that we've implemented that tests candidates' emotional intelligence, their ability to self-regulate, to understand their own emotions under stress. We know that those are skills that are pretty important in police officers. We're paying a vendor $200 per test right now to administer or to interpret the results for us. But for, I believe it's $1,800 a person, we can train our own people to do that, and then we don't spend $200 on it anymore. We do it ourselves. We have intentionally not assigned specific dollar values to these things because some of them are unpredictable. I don't know, based on just how, if we maintain the luck that we've had hiring, how much to tell you that we anticipate spending in the rest of the year on, say, psychological evaluations, because it just depends on how, hopefully our luck doesn't run out and we're able to get hired up to full strength plus 6. And like I said before, with the assessment center cost, we just don't know what the request for proposals or the bids that we've got out right now are going to come back at.
Great. I don't want to speak for the rest of the committee, but to me, when we made this ARPA allocation, I think the intent was to have a fully staffed, professionally trained police force. And I think you've kind of taken that charge very personally, and we appreciate that because you've done exactly, I think, what we've all wanted to see. So from my perspective, when you talk about whether you're using it for overhire, for recruitment, retention, for testing, as long as we've got that fully staffed, and trained police force, that's what my objective is, and I'm perfectly comfortable deferring to you on how those pieces come together. That's what we pay you for, and so I want you to know that I have that trust that you're able to kind of figure that out. But I don't know if any other members of the committee have thoughts. Alder Burnett?
Yeah, not that the chief needs me to praise him, but that's one thing I really respect about his leadership is that there are certain ARPA allocations that were presented to the council, and then upon further study, thought process, it was kind of changed and it came through our body the proper way so that we could reallocate. So gunshot detection, perfect example. Upon studying, we realized maybe that wasn't the direction, so then we allocated it to something else. And so definitely complete support of this because it seems like we're very adaptive to what the situation calls for. This is an example of that. So.
You're still trying to end up with 6 overhires, are you not?
Right.
And that's going to be the hard
Yes.
deal, because I know there's a few guys that are already talking about retiring this year. So as soon as you get those 2 and you get a couple more, so but I'm happy to see that we're making progress. I don't know how many kids are showing up to take the test now. At one time, it was 300 to 500, and then it got into the 10s and 20s. So I'm hoping that's turning around. One thing we always said once I was in the administration of the department was the more money you spend on the front end hiring, the less money you spend on discipline and other issues, which can really hurt this community and hurt the department. So I'm in favor anytime we want to put more money in the front end. It just makes good sense that that's the last place you'd want to make any cuts. You want to hire good kids, and they don't always turn out, even with everything we do to try and hire them. They're just, some people aren't cut out for this job. But the more we can do on that front end, the more better candidate that we can get serving this community. I think that we're better served by spending this money now the way we want to. So I'm in favor of it.
Any other questions?
Yeah, I agree. I agree.
Great. Do we have a motion?
Who to approve?
Second.
Motion by Burnett, second by Galvin. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. F, informational. Number one, the 2023 contingency account, $244,643.36 with an unobligated amount of $204.96. Number two, the next Finance Committee meeting will be held on June 27th, 2023 at 4:30 PM.
Walter? I would
Yes.
like to introduce, if you don't mind, Linda Chaussee is our brand new Assistant Finance Director. I should say brand new, 7 days in. So Linda is here learning.
Welcome. Congratulations.
And then I also had Jessica Deal filling in to help run my meeting manager today.
Great.
So,
Happy to have you on board.
Thank you.
Thanks for the support, Jessica.
Anytime.
Alder Burnett?
Yeah, well, welcome, first of all. I just wanted to comment that the next meeting, June 27th, I think that's a council meeting, so.
oh, we do have a wrong date on there.
Yeah.
Next
Good
meeting
eye.
would be July 25th.
Good eye.
Good catch.
Okay.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
We have a motion by Galvin to adjourn, second by Burnett. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries.